Justice Gertrude Tokonu speak on Friday, made the argument that to be scrapped for young girls, but for working individuals, the tax remains. I'll be interested to know what you think of that. For many individuals who are looking forward to the announcement or the scrapping of the COVID-19 levy, when you visit the restaurant, you go to shop at the mall, you continuously pay COVID-19 levy. Now the president says, please, I beg you, bear with me a while longer. That's what he said. So essentially, you're going to be paying that. There's no end date, no end date in sight at all. And so COVID-19 levy still much in full force.
Jesus, you're my everything, yeah. My everything is you.
3FM Sunrise.
We're trying to reach out to Felicity Ahafianyo to give us this morning's weather update. Fortunately, that's not been successful just as yet. But we can't delve into the newspapers.
3FM Sunrise.
Same is joining me free with details of the newspapers this morning. Good morning, Same.
Good morning, Mawuena. How are you?
Blessed as always. It's been a stressful weekend, but we're back to it already.
As for the stress, some of us had the opportunity to distress.
Oh, you had the opportunity.
Corporate Connect.
Oh, really?
Last Friday at the Gold Coast bar and restaurant. So
fantastic.
We are rejuvenized and then, poised for action. I believe that this week is going to be better than last week.
Oh yeah, we're looking for this week is pay week, so I mean it's definitely going to be better. We used the opportunity to visit family and also the hospital yesterday as well for one emergency of some sort, and the continuous reminder that if you get sick in this country, it is just you and your God is almost always reflective anytime you visit the hospital. And yesterday when I visited, the only thing that continued to stick with me was at every point in time when you come across government, there's difficulty. When there's something that has to do with government in rendering service, there's a difficulty. So I would list it from where I encountered government when you were going to register for national service. The long queues, the frustration that was characterized by registering for voters ID, trying to get your Ghana card. Anything that has been associated with a service rendered by a state agency, more often than not, is characterized by some level of difficulty. And visiting the hospital is no different.
Yes, I share in this opinion, and I know most of our listeners and viewers will agree with us, because it's so frustrating. Even if you want to go and pay your bills, okay, at the ECG or any other, service providers that of government, in nature, it's difficult. And I think that it's about time we all, brought out our best, okay, as public servants, as civil servants, to ensure that we move our nation to that deserving pedestal. And people are dying needlessly in the hospitals because of these frustration and inefficiencies in the system. And I think that is something that we really need to take care. And it's unfortunate. Really is that when you go to a government hospital and you're paying for your ward and all that to get well, even when you want to use a urinary, you have to pay money.
But anyways, let's get into the newspapers this morning. I started off with the Daily Graphic. That's the front page story. Like COVID, we will succeed. President rallies nation for economic revival. That's the big banner story on the front page of the Daily Graphic this morning. Also here, non-VAT registered importers to pay 12.5% upfront, and also power of contempt necessary for justice delivery. That's according to the CJ nominee. And cover price goes up with effect from Thursday, June 1. The Daily Graphic will be sold now at 5 cities. This is as a result of increase in production cost. And so, let me raise it for the camera to capture it. Just the top here. Daily Graphic is announcing that.
So how much is the increase?
So it's gone up by 1 city.
Okay.
That's roughly about 25% of the current cost, which is 4 cities.
I can't even recollect the last time there was an increase in the price of the.
Oh, it used to be 2 cities, 50 pesos. I don't recall when it went to 4 cities, and now it's going to 5 cities. So 5 cities per. And then the last one, virtual InfoSec builds BOG Cybersecurity Center. Those are the front page on the Daily Graphic. I'll walk us through the front pages, and then we'll begin to take the details. The Ghanaian Observer is next. Akufo-Addo commissions 84 million euros Elmina Harbour. NPP Ejisu constituent hail John Kuma. Boss MD receives exemplary brand leadership award. Baumia touts achievement of Manya Krobo traditional area, and Kwame Pianin kicks against review of free SHS. And the controversy as to the free SHS's review has come up as well. I'm sure it will come up during our conversations. The Informer newspaper, Mona calls Akufo-Addo sellout, tribal bigot. A story on page 3. Also, Napo stops Freddie Blay over Petro SA deal. Chief Justice supports contempt summons, and Greater Accra NDC boils over Mahama Cash. Emmanuel Ashimo, NDC Greater Accra Regional Chair, he's on the front page. Let's end unconditional overthrow of government, Bagban tells African Parliament. The Inquisitor newspaper is the last one I have. Tidal waves, K2 South in fresh panic as phase 2 of Sea Defense project is ignored. Comes with a picture of Francis Asensu-Boachi. He's a Minister for Works and Housing. Why Ejiso people are in love with John Kuma. They are in love with him. There's a story on the front page of the Inquisitor newspaper. Chaos in Christian Divine Church. Senior pastor chases Apostle Boahi, Pastor Iwa. Hajia for Real's team members are hot, and Chairman Blay bows out of GNPC Petro SE deal. You walk us through the front pages.
I have the Finder newspaper here. Yana condemns lynching of 2 persons over witchcraft accusations. Kwame Pianim kicks against review of free SHS. Ghana card rescues UCC lecturer to travel from Germany to Ghana. And I'll take the Kwame Pianim's.
The free SHS.
Yes, free SHS. Mr. Kwame Pianim, an economist, has advised government not to touch the free senior high school policy in the quest to review flagship programs. He called for the cutting down on expenditure on less priority areas, with funds channeled to pertinent sectors of the economy. This small country with more ministers than the UK and US doesn't make sense, and every minister has about 2 cars. It doesn't make sense in a country of 30 million with 16 regions. Let's cut down on expenditure, review our ex gratia, and give it out only once. We must also cut down on the number of ministers, he said. Mr. Mpieni said this in a television discussion on the topic IMF deal, the case for review of flagship programs.
I mean, the call is not one that is new. The concern that a review of a policy with a holistic nature like this could have implications has been expressed quite succinctly by a number of individuals. Even the president, during the height of the 2020 election campaign, reiterated a number of times that review amounted to cancellation of the program in its totality. And so the review We don't know in what form it would take. Obviously, there's been concerns about targeting, which has been raised by the IMF that it's poorly targeted. If the government says that it is reviewing, do they mean they are going to look at targeting? We don't really get the full picture as to what the review is.
Yeah, but
reason why some of these concerns will come up, and the concerns are germane and they're genuine.
Yeah, but Mawuena, I am of the view that free SHS must be reviewed in the sense that those of you who have schooled outside Ghana, those of you who have lived in Europe, you can bear with me that senior high schools or colleges in the Europe and Americas are not boarding in nature. It's community based. That is how we should also tailor our free SHS policy or program, because I think that government is spending so much. If you look at the budget component, okay, the budget for free SHS, chunk of it is spent on feeding and cost of keeping the students in the boarding house. I think that is about time as a country we critically looked at boarding system. When we had independence, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in his wisdom and with his cabinet thought that, okay, this is time for us to integrate, to create this kind of national cohesion. So it is important that someone will travel from Kumasi to Cape Coast, from Wa to Accra to school, so that we will know each other and bond as a country. He was trying to unite the country. But
it's
now,
so important,
now you don't need to travel to bond. In Accra here, you meet people coming from different various places. Same in Kumasi, same in Obuasi, same in Sunyane. I get in the point. So for me, I think that at the secondary level, we should be looking at day school system, and rather provide buses that can transport the students on a short distance.
The infrastructure of the various schools will have to improve, because if you look at it, a chunk of the quality schools continue to remain within the southern area.
Eric,
category A schools.
Okay, what makes a school a category A school?
The category A schools.
If you want to go to Achimota, if you want to go to Precept, if you want to go to Pokuare, it means that you have to make the highest or the best of grades. I get in a point. So those category A schools admit the best of students from the junior high school. So if a school is what is sought as a best school, has the best of teachers, they should rather admit the average student and make them great students.
Of course, you side with the arguments. Whenever Sedu, thankfully, he's joined us as well in studio for the newspaper review. I wonder what he will make of the arguments that what makes a school a category A school.
Well, first of all, the definition of the review, the word review has become quite contentious, and those who are asking for review are just in the look. Where it's obvious that the government cannot handle alone, let us ask parents to come in.
That's right.
And it's basically to do with the feeding.
Yeah.
That's number one. Now, talking about the category A school, B school, this is quite controversial, but the point is that we even have the Ivy League schools. Human beings as we are do not have the same intellect. All right? So the system has schools that attract a certain caliber of individuals. Yes. That one, there's nothing you can do about it. There can be a policy to allow everybody who passes the exam to a certain threshold to make it to the so-called category A schools, but they will still remain the ones that attract the best. Because if you look at the universities around the world, you have the Harvards, the Princeton, the Yale. It is not for nothing that they sit there. The Oxford, the Cambridge.
There'll always be schools of prestige.
So that's the point. So if the Infanti Pims, the Adisadels, the Wesley Girls, and the Achimota schools are there as category A schools, I don't see how anybody would want to force to send people who don't cut that threshold into those schools. Maybe you would say that the person is in a school in the countryside, So because of that, he didn't get A, B, C, D to up his grades to make it to
They wanna
Achimota.
blend
It
them
is
a bit.
better for us to rather go and improve those schools and make it competitive for everybody, so that
That's right.
when the examinations are done, somebody who is learning computer science with computers will not come and compete with somebody who is learning computer science only on the blackboard or with some stone or something. So the discussion is not as easy as category A or B or C school. It's a matter of spreading the quality of education around the country.
That's right.
So that if somebody has, because everybody is born with nature, and then he comes and is nurtured. So the intellect that we come with, we cannot all be that sharp academically.
Right.
Some are good in other fields.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the system doesn't even take care of those people. So when you go to school, you don't do well in English, math, and maybe science, then society doesn't have any place for you to develop.
Progress, yeah.
So
Right.
the discussion, if we stick to just category A, who qualifies and who doesn't qualify, will be limited in terms of getting the human resource that we need to build the country. For instance,
Right.
if you go to countries like Germany, I mean, they've improved their technical education to the point that we call them the mean machines. Every German society is built on solid machines. If
That's
you see a product from Germany,
So this is
exactly, it's because they've concentrated on what everybody can do. It is not everybody who can go to. I mean, if you go to schools like category A, even within those schools, those who come from the basic schools, they also have their category A schools.
that's right.
So it is infrastructure one, the quality of teaching two,
Right.
and the kind of people that those so-called top schools will attract.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? So if the person is in the countryside and is not doing well, it doesn't mean that it's not cut for the, but it's not been prepared for the category. That's why the system will be forced to lower the grades for somebody in the countryside to come to a category A school. For instance, during the free SHS exam, the basic school examination, if somebody is coming from, say, the countryside, he will be given an opportunity to enter a category A school when he has about 18 to say 24. But if you are coming from a good school in the city, you'll be forced to get 6-1s or best 8. And do you know what is happening now? People in the so-called private schools who want to pass and get Achimota and Fancy, they are now moving their children to
The
government schools or the lowly place schools for them to just pass, because there, any grade that you get between 18 and 24, you can still go to Achimota school.
That's right.
So people are also going around the system. So we should concentrate on not just making it possible for people just to come to Fantipim for the sake of going to Fantipim. That we are saying that now free SHS policy has made it possible for people in the countryside to come to Achimota and so on. They should make it. They should concentrate on developing the infrastructure.
Improving quality. I mean, all across continues to remain the challenge in terms of our education, and so the argument will continue as to whether or not the system and the way of placing students will serve our interests best. But let's touch on the president's address from yesterday, taking the story from the front page of the Daily Graphic, which is continued on page 3. And the president has stated that just as the sacrifices and support of Ghanaians during the COVID-19 pandemic led to its successful management, a similar attitude back in the country will help it overcome the current economic challenges. And the president said the $3 billion negotiated deal with the IMF to be received in the next 36 months, out of which the first tranche of $600 million had already hit the country's account, will lead to the restoration of confidence and the reopening of avenues that had been closed for the past 1.5 years. And I know that also refers to the international capital market. Let's talk challenges. He amongst many things says that we're in extraordinary times and we took extraordinary measures, and when faced with the realities of the economic crisis last year, I accepted the challenge. The economy required a similar attitude, including the sacrifices many of us have made in recent times. Now, referring to his famous quote, which attracted international repute, that we know how to bring the economy back to life. What we do not know is how to bring back the dead. He, amongst many other things, says he does not think that anyone anywhere imagined that the effect would be so widespread, so destructive, and so deep. On the IMF bailout, the president said the message will be underpinned by the discipline, hard work, and enterprise with which the government had executed the program. And so the president said a lot, out of which, amongst many things, he mentions that the COVID-19 levy is not going anywhere. and that the difficulties will not go away any sooner, that the IMF is not a panacea to all of our economic challenges at this particular point. It will take some time before we can begin to get reprieve.
Well, I listened to the president's speech, and for me it was just, if you like, putting together of whatever has been discussed. He himself has put on the table already. His ministers have said, civil society have said already. There was nothing new for me yesterday. It was just a package, if you like, of what has been discussed already. We all knew he was coming to talk about COVID and the fact that, whatever happened was not for corrupt purposes. But the Auditor General's report is there. Let's tackle that report. If the president says that anything that was done with COVID money was not corruption, the Auditor General's report is there, number one. And we knew that he was going to talk about the fact that we are going to IMF because of COVID. He has said it already, and I'm surprised he didn't even talk about Russia, Ukraine.
Right.
What else was in the speech or the address? So for me, it was just, if you like as I said earlier, it's a package of whatever had been said already. The most important thing is that the IMF money is here. The first tranche of $600 million here. We're just hoping and praying that the plan that the IMF and government sat down to put together will be followed, so that the ordinary Ghanaian can breathe a little, because the system is still very tight. The crisis that led us to the IMF is not eased up yet. So they should work on the macroeconomic environment, as they said, balance of payments, all the debts that the state is having to repay. We should look at how we sort out all these things, so that we'll not be saddled with taxes again. At the end of the day, that's what the Ghanaian citizens are asking for, because apart from that, I don't see anything new in what the president said.
Yes, I also feel safe about the president's delivery yesterday, and I think that we need to go beyond the talk, the presentations and all, and put in practical actions that can really solve our problems as a country. And for me, I was expecting the president to come and tell us, the things that have been put in place to ensure that we move out of this situation we find ourselves in as swiftly as possible. But as William said, he just came to tell us what we already know, what we have been discussing, and there's nothing to talk about the president's.
So you all didn't find anything interesting from the president?
Interesting per se, but I'm saying that for me, there was literally nothing new, because it was for a long time we haven't heard the president give us an address.
Yeah.
COVID was on the table, IMF was on the table. But I'm saying that those are the two major items, and talking about those two major items, the details of what the president said are already out there. He said what he has to say. One of his ministers said, Dr. Amin said we're going to go to the capital market soon. The finance minister said we are not in a rush. The president said, well, as soon as possible. So we just need them, the government, to have one voice in dealing with us. This morning we are hearing that the vice president is announcing that the one student, one laptop policy is going to be rolled out very soon. Is it the end of the year or early next year? Whatever it is, the teacher said, look, you promised same in respect of teachers. You haven't delivered. And the free SHS shouldn't be concentrated just on the students. The teachers too must be taken care of, so that we have a ballpark direction. Because at the end of the day, what you set out to do, you haven't been able to do in terms of delivering.
The teachers are even challenging the recent promise to have every student receive one laptop, and with textbooks and all of that embedded into it. They are seriously challenging that. But anyways, we'll get a lot more details on that if you stay with us here on 3FM Sunrise, and we'll do some other.
Do you think this one student, one laptop thing is realistic? For me, we've heard some before. We've seen some before the RLG time. We expected a lot of Ghanaian students to get laptops, and even the type of laptop that were given, was not the best, and more so, it's taken government over 2 years, and government has not been able to come out with, the new curriculum, the textbooks for the new curriculum. And if you couldn't do the small thing, how can we trust you to do the bigger one? So for us, sometimes they say it, we listen, and then we say, okay, say yeah, we are watching,
Right then, let's get a lot more details. I see in the Inquisitor, on the front page of the Inquisitor as well, concerns over tidal waves resurging again, or it's re-emerging, these concerns over tidal waves. What other stories do we have on the front page?
The Daily Guide is talking about Mahama Nana Komia tussle over ex-gratia. That word is still in the news, and we'll get into details what the matter is. But we also have 13 kilograms of wheat intercepted at Kutuka International Airport, and Nana opens 84 million euro Elmina fishing harbour. Appeals court halts lawyer suspension, and on the back page of the Daily Guide, dreams shatter at Adriana dreams. That's it for the Daily Guide. Okay. So talking about the ex-gratia, which is a subject that is not going away.
It's become a
yes,
subject
the
of
former president and Nana Komia, managing director of STC, and we know he's also a former communication director of the NPP, are in a disagreement over ex-gratia payment. Nana Komia recently urged Mahama to refrain from accepting the payments of ex-gratia henceforth, since he says he will review it when he returns to power. The suggestion is that the former president, is receiving his ex-gratia, is taking money from the state in terms of salary or whatever it is. So Nana Komia is saying that, look, if you are talking about scrapping it, then stop taking yours now. During an appearance on Peace FM's Kokoko program last week, Nana Komia expressed his intention to demonstrate his stance on abolishing ex-gratia, since Mahama is currently a recipient of the controversial package and does not need to wait until he returns to power. As I said earlier, the details are suggesting that, look, you are an ex-president, you are taking your ex-gratia. So if you have intentions of scrapping it, then demonstrate readiness by stopping the payments now. But so that conversation will not go away. People are for it, others are not for it. We know that per the Constitution, if you go to Article 71, you box it up with Article 290, it will take a referendum to scrap that. Yeah. And once that has not been done, Nana Komia is saying that, Mr. Former President, stop taking what you are taking now, and let's see that you're really up for what you say.
Yeah, but I think that ex-gratia needs to be reviewed or scrapped. Because let me use someone who has been in Parliament for about 3 consecutive periods. When I talk of the period, I'm talking of the person
4-year term.
Yeah, the 4-year term. The person has taken the ex-gratia 3 times, and the argument they make, especially when it comes to the MPs and the ministers, they say that once you become a political figure, you become an MP, it's difficult for you to go back into society and work, because the political culture is said that the moment you identify as an NDC or MPP, people will start. So those arguments for me are weak, because we have MPs who are lawyers who still go to court, don't they? We have MPs who were lecturers after losing their election. They went back to the classroom to teach. So for me, ex-gratia must be scrapped, and we should all benefit from Senate contributions.
Okay.
And if they are going to rely on Senate contribution, it means that they will be particular about how we are able to improve Senate. Pensioners are dying needlessly.
It's a conversation that needs to be had.
Mawuena, sorry, talking about pension, the former president is insisting, and he's telling Nana Komia and all of us that he is not taking ex-gratia. What he's receiving is his pension. And so we should be clear in our minds what the difference is between pension and ex-gratia. The ex-gratia, for me, I think is a total package they give them.
It's a bulk package. Yeah, that's so what Toby Apple retained.
If the constitution says that the individual who is in office will retire on his pension, on his salary as pension, then that is it. So that will be for another discussion. Yeah. So when we are going into this ex-gratia discussion, we should be clear to note that there's a difference between the pension and ex-gratia. Even as the Chief Justice nominee said during the vetting, she said, look, we don't take ex-gratia, we retire on our salary. So that distinction should be made. There are some office holders like, justices of the Supreme Court, former presidents who retire on their salary. Is that what we call ex gratia? I don't think so. I think it is some package.
Yeah.
And it started small and it's growing. So it's becoming a very huge, burden on the state in respect of the package.
And those continue to consist a huge chunk of where all of the monies we take in taxes and all of the revenue that we generate goes into paying salaries and paying off debts.
Yeah.
That's why we're almost always having to resort to external creditors, having to visit the external capital markets and the likes. But when I mentioned the Chief Justice nominee and her response at the vetting yesterday, and she has backed contempt summons being served on individuals who denigrate the court, and Chief Justice nominee Justice Gertrude Tokonu has made it clear that she absolutely supports contempt summons used by courts